Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to the self-portrait live stream. Today I am going to be starting on my shirt, and I've kind of come up with a strategy. After looking at the reference photo for a little bit, I figured, the shirt is black, but I have, some light changing the colors a little bit. So what I decided that I can do is I can just ignore everything except for the parts that are kind of like a pure black, like the darkest parts of the shirt. And so essentially today I'm just going to be filling in some of the shapes of like the folds and the shadows, and then later on I will just apply some of those other colors to bring everything together. So that is what I'm going to be doing. Hello, Oda. Life is a Mystery. Lindy, Cece, what's up? Chrissy, and Howme. I always forget how to pronounce your name. I know you said I could say like James or something, but I remember looking it up and then I forgot. My apologies. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get started here. I have some small details that I need to get to. Hey there, Gary. Good to see you. I am doing quite well. I was a tiny bit concerned today because they had the electricity shut off all morning, and it just turned back on about 15 minutes ago. So my wife reminded me yesterday that the electricity should be off from 9 to 11, and I scheduled my live stream for today to 11, so I bumped it back to noon, and I didn't notice the electricity coming on until about 15 minutes ago. So fortunately it came on in time. So here I am. Hope everyone is having a fantastic Tuesday, or I hope that you have a fantastic Tuesday, depending on what part of the world you're in. I know it's quite early. I improve with the days. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it right eventually. Good morning from New York. I'm gonna try to pronounce her name. Cornelia? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. But welcome to the live stream. Glad you're able to join in. I'm trying to get these shadows in the creases of my shirt like just right. It's quite tricky. Okay, I can do this part here. So I'm just going to be working on these black shapes. I guess I can maybe zoom in a little bit more and focus my camera. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if Oh, Cornelia. That's what I was thinking the name was, but your screen name is spelled differently. So I thought it was spelled differently because it was a different name. As usual, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. I don't have any news stories for you planned today, so you're gonna have to help me out. a little bit with the conversation. So get to the questions quickly. Hey there, Mima. And Anna, always a pleasure to see you. Today I'll also be streaming over on Patreon. I noticed that I got a few new patrons yesterday, and I'd like to think that that's because I mentioned it in yesterday's live stream. So I appreciate those of you that signed up on Patreon. I truly, truly do appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And it lets me continue to do this every day for you guys. So we'll be working on the lion project over on Patreon today and pastels. So we'll get to some of the fine details on that project. And then I have to also today I have to find a new project for the colored pencil tutorial over on Patreon. So if any of you have some ideas of what I should draw and do a little tutorial on, please let me know, because that'd be great. Oh yeah, Sue. So you asked. I was just saying that I haven't yet figured out what I'm going to do. So if you guys have any ideas, do I feel I have to fill the whole tooth of the paper to call a piece done? Not necessarily. It depends on like the scale of realism I'm going for. If I'm going for something a little bit more painterly, where I want it to look like a drawing and I'm not too concerned, then I might leave some of the tooth of the paper showing through. But for the most part, I actually prefer to completely fill in the paper, and I generally do that. Where is that? Trying to pinpoint these black shapes here. Okay, so how about doing an elephant? Maybe be interesting using mainly grays. An elephant, that would be a fun project. I did an elephant in pastels not too long ago. So that's certainly a subject that I do like. Elephants are a great subject. Lots of details in elephants. I usually, for the Patreon tutorials, or the colored pencil ones, I try not to do anything too complex that would take me a really long time. Because since I live stream the Patreon tutorials also, doing a really complex subject like an elephant might take an entire month of live streaming. Since I only live stream the colored pencil tutorial once a week, I try to pick subjects that you know, maybe 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, I guess. So an elephant is certainly, now that I kind of talk about it, I guess it makes sense that I could do it, even if it took a whole month of live streams. Your question got buried. When you guys ask me questions, it's the best if you tag me in the question, because otherwise I miss it really easily. There's, you know, everybody's having conversations with each other as well in the live chat. So if you put the @ symbol and then start typing Unmask Art, my name will pop up. And if you click on it, it will highlight my name in the chat so that I can read it and see it easily. So if you do that, I am less likely to miss your questions. So that will help me out, and it will help you out from me missing your questions. So just do that, and then I'll see your questions easier. So I'm looking to start study on floral subjects, and I'm intimidated by it. What suggestions can you tell me to try to make things less daunting? So yeah, floral drawings and paintings are actually one of the easier subjects to break up into like puzzles, because let's say you have a flower, right? Each of the petals is very distinct from the petal next to it, and so that allows you to do a flower one petal at a time. So if you just if you get your line art well established, then you can just kind of color in one flower petal at a time, and that will help you from being overwhelmed. It's not a speedy process, but you'll get a much more accurate picture in the end. And what you can do is if you kind of select the minimum colors that you need to just fill in the flowers, so not to have the picture 100% complete, but to just have it close, you know, make sure you have enough colors to capture the form of the flower, so you can establish your shadows and your highlights. And then what you can do is, after you have everything filled in, you can go back with some of your toning colors and bring in, you know, the bright reds or pinks or blues or whatever color flower you're working on. So just try to minimize the color. Try to minimize your color palette starting off, and then you should have a lot easier time. So hopefully that makes some sense. Just curious, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, that's a great question. It's always, I find that it's really, really important to plan when you're doing artwork. And that same philosophy carries over to my life. And so I think about things, where I want to be in 5 years, where I want to be in 10 years. And I would say where I want to be in 5 years is in a house for sure, or at least a larger flat. I want to have my own studio space. That was actually the goal for this year. The realtor has never really gotten back to me about available houses, but as I've kind of discovered on my own, houses aren't really available in my area. So I'm probably going to broaden my search to just larger flats so that I can have a dedicated studio space, because as I've like evolved on my channel, I've become more of a live streamer than, you know, making the pre-recorded videos, but I still really like to make the pre-recorded videos. It's just yeah, it's just hard to do those things in this tiny space. And so hopefully that's where I'll be in 5 years, in a better location, in order to make those videos and make those live streams better. That's one of my goals. Another one of my goals for 5 years is to have one more, at least one more source of income. There, you know, to be financially independent, you have to have multiple sources of income. You can't rely on one thing. And I have like 6 right now. And so I'm looking to invest in real estate and hopefully start generating income that way. So in 5 years, I'd like to own at least 2 houses. That would be really ideal. And then in 10 years, I'd like to have maybe just 3, maybe bump it up to 3 properties, but maybe not too much beyond that. So that's kind of where I see myself in 5 years and 10 years. And then in 10 years, actually, I am going to retire. So when I'm 40, I am going to be done with working. That is also my other goal. It doesn't mean that I would quit doing artwork, but it would mean that I'd probably stop doing like tutorial things as much. I'd probably still do one every once in a while because I really enjoy it. But for the most part, I'd probably not live stream as much when I'm 40. I enjoy making videos, so it's hard to even consider it work in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of aspects of what I do now that is 100% work. So yeah, maybe when I retire, I will start writing. I'll start writing books. Maybe I'll make a few. I'll write a few like colored pencil books, or I don't know, pastel books. I think that's probably where my time would be best dedicated to. So a few things like that. I really like that question though. I do. Where is that? There's this black. Okay, there it is. Trying to find this black shape in my shirt, but I was struggling. Seeing if I had any other questions. Yeah, so that's kind of my short-term plus long-term goals. I've always told myself that I'm going to retire at 40, so that's kind of where I need to direct my attention. joined Patreon last night. Yes, Anne, I saw that. Thank you so much. I look forward to you getting started as well. That's great. I'll be happy to see you in the Patreon live streams. Really appreciate that. If you have any suggestions for the new colored pencil tutorial that will be this Thursday, let me know. I'll find something today, do the line art, and I'll schedule out Thursday's tutorial, give you guys time to transfer your line art and all of that stuff. So that's going to be the goal. I'm probably going to keep it like a singular subject type thing. I don't really know what, possibly an elephant. I mean, that's a really good suggestion, and I like elephants, so it could be an elephant, but no guarantees. My mind changes a lot, so it could be something different. I have the video of the ballerina dancer that I need to start editing for, a quick tutorial on YouTube, the time-lapsed version. I mean, that is the kind of the reason I bought this new camera, so that I could record halfway decent videos again while I'm live streaming. Though I'm actually not recording this process. I'm not going to turn this into a YouTube video. It's just going to remain the live streams, and that's it. I thought about recording the process of this drawing, but I would have had to have had it taped down, and even though it's not as it's clear when I'm flipping the drawing all around and all of that stuff, it's really helpful actually to me that I can do that. So that's just the way this project is going to go. Today might be a short stream. I guess it just depends on how long it takes me to fill in these black shapes. This side is more lit, so there's only like these black shapes, but this side is darker, so there's a lot more black over there that I have to fill in. But yeah, I still have quite a bit of time that it's going to take me, and then I have these details, the buttons and all of that. Something floral, I could do that. I have several tutorials that I've done of flowers, and I try to keep it, I try to continue to add diversity to the library of tutorials that I have. And I already have an elephant as well, so that's why I'm a little indecisive about whether or not that will be the subject, because I've already done an elephant, and so I'm trying to think of a relatively simple subject that covers maybe a unique technique that I haven't talked about, or something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure about it. Could I draw something mechanical like a robot or something? I certainly could, but for whom would I be drawing it? I don't do a lot of like drawing tutorials or anything like that. I've painted a I've painted a Gundam before on my channel. That's quite mechanical and a very complex subject. It was a lot of fun to do, but that was a long time ago that I did that one. A tree? Actually, I do have a tree tutorial on Patreon already. It's tough, you know. I have 33 tutorials that hang up behind me. I have a flower. I have three flowers. I have three flowers. I have a tree. I have two. I have two portraits, and that's not including the three extra portraits that I've done on Patreon. I have four hair tutorials. I have two dogs. I have a squirrel. I have an egg. I have like 5, 6 still life. I have a close up of a tree bark. I have a bird. I mean, I have clouds, sky, landscape. So I have a whole ton of tutorials that I've already created on Patreon, and it makes it hard to find a new subject because I've done so many subjects. I have a cat. I have 2 birds. 3 dogs. I mean, not all of my tutorials hang up behind me. I have over 100. I have over 100 different tutorials on Patreon, so it's not easy finding that subject. A fish and bubbles. Actually, I have an underwater scene with a fish and the bubbles. That's you can't see it, but it's like directly behind me. I could do a more exotic fish. I think that could be kind of fun on like toned paper. So I'll look into a cool fish or something. Why not redo some of the famous artwork from the Renaissance period? Oh, that could be fun. That sounds more like a personal project than a tutorial, though, especially if I'm going to do it in my own style. When you use oils or acrylics, do you use canvas? Never. I hate canvas. I only paint on panel. Marvel fan art. Yeah, I don't do fan art. I've done a little bit in the past, but I don't do it anymore. It's kind of a personal reason I don't do famous stuff, and it's because I don't like the feeling of piggybacking on someone else's creations. So I don't do much fan art, but I do really like Marvel. A mermaid. Yeah, so I think maybe a fish. I like the idea of doing another fish. It's been a long time since I've done a fish, so I think that might be what I do. Gosh, I hope I outlined the right one here. Okay, yeah, I did. A princess in very sparkly dress. That's an interesting suggestion. I do like all the suggestions you guys are making. I very much appreciate them. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna do a fish. I'll find a nice reference photo of a colorful fish or something. Because really, when I said that I did a fish, it was barely a fish. So I'll do a detailed fish. I have doodled a fish in the past. I actually have it right here. I did this fish. I don't know, sometime last year, I think. It was like right after I bought my polychromos pencils and I was just doodling about with them. This was another polychromos thing. This was like the first thing that I did with polychromos. And then I did a fish, I did a little weird kitten, and then a bird. So yeah, I think I'm settled on doing a fish. Yeah, I apologize. I call it a doodle because it's just in a sketchbook, and I wasn't trying to take it seriously or anything like that. I was just fiddling about for a couple hours. I know some people, actually in the past, I've had people take offense to me referring to some of my drawings as doodles, because I refer to anything I do as a doodle if I didn't plan it. So if I had no planning involved with the picture that I drew, then to me it's a doodle. Because usually what I'll end up doing is I'll like be watching something and just drawing at the same time. You know, like a podcast or just random videos, or maybe I'll just be listening to music or something. But it's the mindlessness of it that makes it a doodle for me. What make my toned sketchbook is my toned sketchbook is Strathmore. That one in particular is the toned tan sketchbook. I really like the toned tan paper for portraits, because I haven't shown that sketchbook in a long time. This was actually the original drawing journal, and I wanted to practice portraits using a limited color palette, so I just used brown and white. Starting off, I only used brown and white. This is also just brown and white. And then I incorporated a black, so now it's black, brown, and white, and I really liked the depth that I could create with those three colors on this paper. And so here's a portrait with the brown, black, and white. Though I only used black in the eyes here. And then here's another one with the brown, black, and white. And this was just a lip study, again, with just the brown, black, and white. And I stuck with the I stuck with the brown, black, and white for a long time here. Here's a figure study that I did. I didn't really get the back right on this one. There's a lot of improvement needed there. Here's another one, a little bit smoother, a little bit better looking. Here's one of my favorites. It took forever to cover up the background, and so when I did this one, I thought of different ways that I could cover up the background if it was just going to be flat black. Here's where I experimented a little bit with color. So instead of brown, black, and white, I just used red and white. And so this is just a red and white one. And then this was one that I was working on. I was doing a cat. But people liked the eyes so much that I decided to just do a full project with it. So I stopped halfway through. Here's where I was experimenting with markers to cover up the black background. And that's just a picture of my hand. And then I went back to using the brown, black, and white to do that. And then I showed you guys this one yesterday, practicing skin. So that was practicing skin with color all the way up to there. And then this one I did ink on the back, and then it wasn't dark enough, so I covered it with black colored pencil, and it got dark enough, and I like this one. And again, just brown, black, and white. This is brown, black, and white plus ink, and this was just a character that I designed on a live stream. I don't even know how long ago. They wanted. I had just the base, so without the clothes, and people said to make a classical looking anime character, so like the schoolgirl type thing, but futuristic. So this was how I came up with like a futuristic anime schoolgirl type thing. I don't know where this one came from, Super Angry Ninja, but there it is. And this is brown, black, and white plus a Sharpie marker. Here's a much better updated in scale figure with, again, just the brown, black, and white. And then back to these ones that I just showed you with the Prismacolors, and I think after the bird, yeah, the flower, and then I did these lips with just a full color spectrum. And then this circle here, believe it or not, so this circle is about 2 hours worth of very, very lightly layering a series of polychromos colors, and that's the last thing. So this circle I spent, it was just like a relaxing piece that I wasn't thinking about. So again, a doodle, I guess, but I wanted to see how smooth I could get everything if I just continued to layer. So I spent like 2 hours, and I don't know, you can see like the light glaring off of it. You can see just how smooth it is. But even though I spent like 2 hours layering, I can actually still see the tooth of the paper. So I could do more, but it is like glassy smooth. Very, very smooth. So yeah, that's my old sketchbook. What make your toned sketchbook? Oh no, not yet. I already answered that. Yes, I have the toned gray paper also. In fact, I just finished a project over on Patreon doing a ballerina on toned gray. And I almost did this one on the toned gray paper, but it's just a little bit too small. So I wanted to go larger, so I used the white paper instead. Do you trace for most pieces, and if you do you use tracing paper? I do trace for most of my non-doodle work. So most of my projects, for instance, this one here, and I don't use tracing paper. I actually use computer printer paper, just the real cheap computer printer paper. And I do have a projector, but it's not very good, so I don't usually use that, especially if I'm doing a small project. Like, I didn't use a projector for this one. But what I do is I actually tape it to my computer screen and just use that to do the tracing. So I tape the computer printer paper to my screen, and what I do in Photoshop, I create line art in Photoshop, and then when I put the paper over top of it, I can see it perfectly fine. So that is how it's done. Because I think I mentioned it yesterday, like there's not a lot of time. Most of the time, there isn't enough time for me to sketch everything out. Because the foundation, the foundation is the accuracy of the initial drawing. So if your accuracy is incorrect in the beginning, there's no fixing that. You can't go back and fix it once you've started coloring. So to avoid those situations where I would have to go back and fix things, it would require me to redraw from the very beginning, and I just don't have time to do those types of things, especially if I'm doing a project on a live stream, which is literally twice a week, every week. But now it's every day, so I have to find the areas of my work where I can save time and get to the important stuff, which is, well, the coloring part, because that's what everybody wants to learn. Yes, you absolutely can ask a question. You can ask as many questions as you want. Can you show a stream on how to do a foaming bubble bath? Oh, that is a super interesting request. How to do a foaming bubble bath? Well, there's really nothing unique about the foam specifically from a bubble bath. Let me just quickly Google image a bubble bath. I don't know why. I pushed the space bar to type in Google, and yeah, so it cut out the entire bit of what I was saying about. Yeah, so it cut out the entire bit that I was explaining doing bubbles. I was looking up a picture to do the bubbles, and what I was explaining was that there's two contexts in which you would do bubbles. You would do them close up, in which you would have to treat each bubble individually. And there's really no easy way, there's not a secret to doing that. You just have to draw what you see, color what you see. And then if you're doing more of a like a scene, like say a person in a bubble bath and then there's bubbles all around them, that would be the easier way, because essentially it just looks like stippling on the paper. You'd have like a base medium light gray for your bubbles, and then you'd use like a pure white to create the sparkles of highlight. And then the edges of the bubbles, they reflect colors. So you'd have some tans or some pinks or whatever surrounding colors there are. And then of course you'd have the parts where the bubbles break apart and the water shows. And you just have to spend a little bit more time around those edges where the bubbles turn into the water. But essentially it's a clear separation. There's no gradient complexity there, so it'd actually be relatively simple in that regard for those areas. Oh goodness, it's already been 45 minutes. Hold on a second, I need to sharpen my pencil. Have to go, time for medicine. All right, Helen, you take care. Hope your neck is feeling better. Trust me, I can relate to the neck pain. So hopefully it subsides for you. I probably won't do a live stream of doing bubbles, but what questions do you have? A specific question regarding the technique that I would use? Because I could explain it to you in better detail if you need it. Because every day for this month I'll be streaming this project, and then once I finish this this month of daily streaming, I'll be working on my painting for one. I'd like to get that done in this lifetime, and I'll be doing like one other tutorial before I go back to the United States for a couple weeks, and so I'll be offline. And then when I get back from the United States, I'll still kind of be offline because I'll be working on my new pastel course. So I'll pretty much be busy until the end of July for sure. Not sure what August holds. Probably, I probably won't be able to finish my oil painting until probably about August. So maybe August will just be focused on my oil painting again. And then September, I'll be going back to the United States for another couple weeks. That's kind of the plan. But that time I'll be taking my wife with me. This time I'm just going by myself. He's totally lost in this. Okay, this is the stripe here. Okay, there we go. I was just curious, do I use fixatives? No, I do not use fixatives with my pastels. Fixatives aren't necessary for pastels. If you want to protect them while storing them, you can simply protect them with glassine paper. And if you want to put them on display, you have to put them behind glass, and they will be perfectly fine. The fixative, it changes the color too much, it changes the texture, it changes what pastels are for me, and I don't like it, so I don't use it. And now that I think about the request for streaming a bubble, I have a tutorial on a soap bubble, but it's just one singular soap bubble. So, I mean, I don't know if that would be helpful for what you're working on, but I do have that bubble. It's right here. So I don't know if a tutorial like this, or doing this particular bubble, would help you, but I do have it. I forgot about that tutorial there. I understand, Linda. Yeah, I understand. It usually is much easier to have it demonstrated in order to actually perform the task. I'm pretty much the same exact way, which is why I teach the way that I teach. I just, I get a lot of requests for things, and I have a ton of stuff that I do on my own as well, and so I have a hard time making promises of doing a demonstration, and I just can't commit to it. So I hope you understand. But if there were any specific questions that you did have, I would be happy to try my best to explain the method in which I would go. And it'd also be easier if I knew the reference photo you were working from so that I could see exactly what you were trying to create, and then I could give you a much clearer idea as to, well, how I would approach the particular subject. I put I'm trying to. Okay, I don't know what the Instagram story thingy is. I barely use Instagram, but I appreciate it, Mima. I like I use Instagram about as minimal as I possibly can. How do you show? How do you show red? How do I show you red? If you, I think what you're asking is how do I send? How do you send me a photo? You can send it to me on Facebook if you want. Let me know when you send it. I can look at it right now. Just go over to my Unmask art page on Facebook and click send message, and then if you tell me before I get off the live stream here that you sent the photo, I'll have a quick look at it and I'll try to explain what I would be thinking of to do the bubbles, give you some insight. I'm actually just about finished. Just going to do a few more outlines here and a couple of these details on the buttons, and that pretty much fills in like the dark black section of my shirt here, and then the rest of the black is actually just kind of a dark bluish gray. And then the highlighted areas are a bit greener, a lighter green. I should just use a circle stencil here for these buttons, but whatever. I can freehand them enough. And then got to do the dots for the holes. And I think that pretty much will finish it off. Got one more line here I can add. And then I think the rest I'll just color with my actual colors. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's live stream. Be sure to give it a thumbs up for me. And for those of you over on Patreon, I will see you in a couple hours. And we're gonna put some work in on our lion project. So I look forward to seeing you guys. And if you're not on my Patreon page, what are you waiting for? Come join us. Come join in on the fun. And I'll check Facebook really quick just to see if you sent me the reference photo. Yeah, it looks like I got the photo. Maybe. Don't know how to send the photo. You just click attach file. But I'm gonna actually call it a day since I have 2 live streams today. I don't wanna go on for too long. So that's gonna be it for today's progress. Got the shadow bits of the shirt filled in, and then once I incorporate some of the darker colors across for the stripes, I think that's what I'll probably do, is I'll do like the dark stripes first, and then I'll do the lighter stripes, because the lighter stripes are actually like the same color as the dark stripe, but it has white pinstriping really small, in order to make it look gray. So I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that part. I think what I'll end up doing is like doing a medium gray color for the light stripes, and then I'll use my black pencil to put in like the fine kind of pinstriping look within the stripes. So yeah, tomorrow I'll probably just work with one color tomorrow as well. I'm not going to really work on the folds or anything like that. That's something that can be added later. That's one of the tricks when you're doing striped material, is actually you can ignore most of the form, and if you just color in base colors for your stripes, then what you can do is you can shade those areas of each individual stripe to start creating the folds that you see, where, you know, some, like down here I have some of it drawn, some of the folds, but when I do the base layers, those folds will kind of flatten out, and then I'll just use a slightly darker color to shade where I need it, and then a lighter color to highlight where I need it, and that's where the folds will really start to come in. So tomorrow the goal will just be to fill in the larger, or to fill in the dark stripes. So anyways, yeah, thank you guys for coming. Don't forget to head over to my Patreon page, of course, and I will see you all tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.